Welcome everyone to the final session of the day. I'm excited that you stuck it out to hear what I've got to talk about, which is financial stability 101. And a little bit about me. I have a passion for personal finance. I was very, very lucky to grow up in a family where my mom and dad taught me a whole lot about personal finance when I was very, very young. They opened up an IRA for me when I was 18 and had my very first job. And they handed me a great book that said, here, read all about it. And I just learned a whole bunch of stuff and I was really fascinated by it. So I have just pursued that love for many years. I've even done some work in fintech, which was great because it combined my hobby with my professional life. And in talking with a lot of people, I have found that women especially are not necessarily educated on what it is that they need to do for personal finance. So I'm just going to run through some really, really basic stuff. If you have been managing your own finances for years, you may know all about this, but hopefully you will find a small nugget somewhere. So let's get started. So one of the big reasons that I wanted to present today is the women's wealth gap. So a lot of people have probably heard in tech, especially, that women don't make as much. Maybe they make, 80 something cents on the dollar, all of that good stuff. But there's actually lots of other sources of wealth gap. One of them is divorce. Women are a whole lot worse off when they divorce versus men. Also, single moms. There's a lot of single moms out there that only have one source of income and they really struggle, and their median income is well below everyone else's. There's also unpaid caregiving. So it frequently falls to us women to care for members of our family, whether that's our parents, young children, just someone who has a disability. It frequently falls on us. So that can impact our ability to work and therefore to make money. So financial literacy. Population-wide, there's really low levels of financial literacy. I mean, just people don't really know a lot about this. It's not taught in school anymore in a lot of places. And maybe your family doesn't talk about finances because it's a taboo. So let's just cover some basic financial literacy terms. If you are financially literate, that impacts how much you save. So if you are not aware of all the different responsibilities you have from a financial perspective, you are going to potentially not save enough, and that can get you in trouble later on. Women, of course, live longer than men, and we typically have shorter work tenures. We have lower earnings and lower levels of pension. All of that wraps up to women can be in trouble. So that's why I'm on this crusade. So one of the best programs I've ever seen, I am not a paid spokesman by any means. I just took this program a number of years ago and I found it super helpful, is by Dave Ramsey. And he has a workbook that you can purchase without going to the actual class. And the workbook will work you through these basic 7 steps. And these 7 steps are really, really, if you can get through all these 7 steps, you will be in much better shape. So the very first one, I'm going to cover each one of these in a slide of their own. So I'm going to just move on. So the very first one is initial emergency fund. I'm always stunned when I talk to friends and they say, oh, my car just broke down or my air conditioner just quit and I don't even have $500 in my savings account. And that just, that breaks my heart. So set up an emergency fund. Your very first goal, if you don't have any savings, you don't have anything set aside, try to get $1,000 as fast as you can. And then keep it. Set it aside, put it in a savings account, put it in a different bank account, somewhere where you won't touch it. And this is only for true emergencies. This is not for, there's a new pair of shoes that I really want. No, it's not an emergency. I need to get my car, get the oil changed or anything like that. Nope, you should be planning for those. So this is just for true emergencies. You go to the hospital, you lose your job, anything like that. And part of setting up this emergency fund is setting up a budget. A budget is a dirty word for a lot of people. And I think people are overwhelmed by budgets because they try to track every single dollar. And that's really overwhelming. So I want to talk about some other samples of budgets that you might try that are a lot less rigorous. So yes, there is the every dollar one, but I don't, especially if you're just starting off, I don't recommend it. The next one is called the 60-40 split. And this one's really great because you get to control what's in the 60% and what's in the 40%. 60% should be all of your non-discretionary spending. So these are things like rent and mortgage, your car insurance, your utility bills, to some extent food, but you also can put food over in the 40%, which is your discretionary spending. So if you're having a tight month, can you cut back on the types of food you get? Absolutely. You can get more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and rice and beans versus going out and getting that Starbucks coffee every day. Then a really old-fashioned way to do budgets that a lot of my friends like is actually getting envelopes and getting cash and stuffing those envelopes and saying, this envelope is for my food. This envelope is for my entertainment. This envelope is for, and you put your discretionary expenses physically in the envelope and you carry those envelopes around you. And when you run out of money in that envelope, you can't spend any more that month in that particular discretionary era. So that's a little bit about budgeting and setting up that very first emergency fund. The next thing that you should do is pay off your debt. I am always surprised when I hear somebody say that they're carrying a credit card debt that's pretty substantial. I don't know that people realize what the interest does for you. So if you have, let's say, a very basic 10% interest, which for a credit card, you can't get anymore. But let's say, just to make it easy, what the bank does is if you carry a balance, they average out how much you're carrying every single day, and it accumulates. So if you have $100 that you didn't pay off, the $100, they charge the annual percentage rate divided by 365. So you get a teeny weeny amount, that times 100. And then the next day you have 100 plus that teeny weeny amount times that same percentage rate. And then it accumulates and it accumulates and it gets over and over. So if you go 6 months, you are going to more than double the amount that you're paying for something that you could have bought up front for cash. So highly, highly recommend that you cut up your credit cards, you don't use them except for absolute emergencies, and you pay them off as fast as possible. I carry a balance. I don't carry a balance. I pay off my credit card at the end of every month. So I use it for convenience, and I totally understand that. You can also use a debit card, which pulls directly from your account, and that way you won't spend more than you have. The snowball effect is if you have multiple debts, you focus on one, pay the minimum on the other, and you get that one debt paid off. You can choose either the smallest debt, pay that off, and then go to the next one because you get the satisfaction of, yes, I'm out of this debt. I don't have to do it anymore. Or you can pick the one that's got the highest interest rate. So that's going to save you the most money if you pay it off sooner. So once you're spending, let's say $200 a month, paying down your credit card debt, and you get one finished, then you take that same $200 and you apply it to the next one, plus the minimum you were already paying. So let's say it's $25 minimum. Now you're doing $225 towards the next one, and you get that one paid off. Now you take $225 plus the minimum for the third debt. So that's what the snowball effect is, and it's very effective. It mentally gives you a little bit of juice because you're like, yes, I'm paying off my debts, and you're not just a little bit here, a little bit there, and you don't seem like you ever get any progress. The next one is this is step 3, completing your emergency fund. So first I had you save $1,000. The next thing you should shoot for is 3 to 6 months of expenses. This is particularly valuable in this market where we have a lot of instability, lots of layoffs happening, lots of return to office and other reasons, downsizing, reorganization, you name it. Or you can also, this can help you out if you have unexpected medical expenses. Anything that can happen, knowing that you have 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank gives you a huge peace of mind. And you're like, oh, it's okay if I don't get a job right away because I have this really nice cushion, a safety net that's going to tide me over. If you've done all of those things, so you've paid off all your debts, you've got 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, the next thing to focus on is your retirement. Ideally, you want 10 to 15% of your household income, and you certainly want to put in if your company offers a match on 401ks, you definitely want to at least equal what they will match because that's free money. They're just giving it to you. There's all different kinds of vehicles. So you may hear some of these and wonder what they are. We have a 401k, which everyone's pretty familiar with. The 403b is the same thing, but for nonprofits. An SEP IRA is the same thing, but for self-employment program. And then we have the really old traditional IRAs that are all of those four things are all pre-tax in, they're taxed coming out. So they come off the top, you don't pay off your salary at the beginning, then they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow. And then on the other end, you pull money out and you are taxed on whatever you pull out. Now, what's nice is there's a newer program called the Roth IRA, and this is post-tax going in, and then whatever you earn, you get to take out tax-free on the other end. So it's really great if you can actually have a mix of both rather than having all your eggs in one basket, because the tax treatment is different and you don't want to have too much pre-tax money coming in as a retired person, because then that's going to bump up your income tax bracket. You're going to pay more taxes, all that kind of good stuff. There's also pensions, although these are fewer and far between now. A lot of employers don't offer pensions anymore. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, then that's great because that's extra money that you will get for your retirement. And then finally, there's rollovers. For any of these that I've mentioned before, if you leave an employer, that money is yours. So you can take that money and roll it over into what's called a rollover IRA. And you keep all your pre-taxes in one bucket and you keep all the post-tax in the other bucket. And so there's two different accounts and you know which one is which. And that can help you consolidate. And so you're not having to go, oh, I got to go over here to look at my 401k, and I got to go over here to look at my pension. I got to go over here to look at my Roth IRA. So I've combined all of mine into one specific broker. I use Charles Schwab. I mean, you can use, there's so many choices now, and a lot of them trade for free, so it doesn't really matter. But I have it all in one place so that I can look at all of my accounts together. The next step is saving for the near term. These are called savings goals. So you want to save for your child's college education, or you want to buy a house, you need a down payment, you want to go on a big luxury vacation, you need a new car, or house deferred maintenance like a new roof, a new air conditioner, anything like that. So determine how much you think you're going to need and start setting that money aside only after you've done your 3 to 6 months and you save for retirement and you've paid off your credit cards. If you have any money left over after that, then you can save for your savings goals. And then the last piece is building wealth beyond retirement. So there's all different types of things that you can invest in. The stock market can be really scary. Definitely get hold of a broker or a financial planner, or talk to some of your friends who maybe know a little bit more, because you can get in trouble in a hurry. So now there's stocks and bonds, there's options, there's real estate funds, there's EFTs. You need to know about diversification and what kind of risk tolerance you have. All that stuff, there's just a lot. And this is why this is just a beginner course, just a really quick run through, because there's a lot out there and I want just the basics taken care of before we start messing around with cyber, crypto and things like that are out there. So that is the end of my talk. And I'm gonna take a break. Oh, 5:29. Yep, I totally forgot about 5:29. Also, an interesting article that I just read today said that there are the amount of women who are divorcing post age 50 has doubled in the last decade. So that's another thing that can really put women behind if you've been married for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden you're divorcing, and how do you handle dividing up that money? Yep. The 50, 30, 20 is very popular for budgeting. I just wanted to keep it a little bit simpler. I will put this presentation on my LinkedIn, And I will put in the chat my LinkedIn. It's just Kristina Robinson. It's pretty easy, but I will go ahead and put that in there so you can, I'm happy to connect. And I'm inspired by the last talk about doing blogs. So I might actually start some personal finance blogs just because, I mean, it's a lot of information that I get from all different kinds of sources. So I can just share. Blogs are back. Woo-hoo.
Hi, Christina. This is Preeti. I was able to get myself unmuted. So thank you so much for such a great insight on personal finance. I'm personally an advocate of personal finance, and thanks for the kind reminder. I had a question about integrating all the accounts into Charles Schwab. I've been wanting to do so, and I just want to ask you, like, does it allow like the third party accounts which are currently under some other 401k or some other
Yeah.
employers? Does it allow you to see those under their realm?
Yeah. So actually what I've done is, let's say I've had 3 employers and I have 3 different 401ks from each one of those employers. I call Charles Schwab, or you can call any broker, and you say, hey, I want to transfer over my 401k that's held over here. And that can be Empower Retirement, or it can be oh gosh, there's a Fidelity benefit, net benefits. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of them. The 401k is managed, so your company doesn't own the 401k. They hire a financial company to actually manage it for them. So you call the broker where you want to put everything, and then you say, I want to transfer everything over. And you have 2 options. You can transfer over, if you have individual stocks or mutual funds, you can actually just say, take everything and transfer it over. Sometimes they let you do that, sometimes they don't. The other option is they liquidate everything over here. So they sell everything and then they transfer over a lump sum. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have them write the check to you and then you have to figure out how to deposit it into whatever broker you want. You actually want to call the brokerage and say, how do I directly transfer? And a lot of times they'll do it for you. It's super easy. They've automated a lot of it. It's a lot of online forms. So it's a lot easier than it used to be. If you have the check written to you and you don't turn around within a certain window, the IRS will tax the heck out of you. So definitely be careful of that and make sure that you do a direct. Now, if you don't want to consolidate physically, you don't want to take the accounts and put them into one, you're not too sure, or something like that, there are definitely Charles Schwab brokerages, banks, etc., who allow you to say, hey, I want to see an external account, and it'll pull in the information and it'll say, oh, you have account ABC at brokerage XYZ, and here is the total balance. You won't get as much detailed information, but at least you can keep an eye on what the balance is. If you actually want to be able to see all the different pieces of stock, then you need to go with a more advanced personal finance software like Quicken, QuickBooks. There's a new one out called Copilot that I'm actually just now trying. So there's some out there that Empower does it. So they'll actually allow you to grab from multiple accounts and down to the individual stock and individual bond and mutual fund, et cetera, and you can track it all in one place. So that's another option.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have traveled that road of getting it transferred to an IRA from 401k, but for some reason related to being a single mom and still in divorce, I need to keep it as it is. I was just looking more for like a dashboard purposes. What is one portal which gives you like a 360-degree view of
Right.
your
And
your
that's those,
investment?
yeah, that's those last 4 that I
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
Quicken, Empower, Copilot. Copilot is free right now. The others, there's a nominal fee that you have to pay. So I'm cheap. I like to save my
I am
pennies.
too. No, I'm frugal. I'm frugal.
Yeah, there you go. That's a much better word.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate, and this is so important for any woman to have in their back pocket. And
Absolutely.
I can't stress enough that you brought this topic up to this Elevate conference, and it's been a great experience for all those who have contributed to this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great
Appreciate
day,
it.
Christina. Bye.
Bye. So Rebecca said, I listened to an NPR podcast where they talked about negotiating debt. What does that mean? Okay, so if you have a car loan, a credit card debt, student loan, I mean, you have more than one loan and you are really struggling to pay things off, you can call that bank, you can call that loan servicer and say, I'm really struggling. I don't have a job, or I don't make enough money. I can't stretch my dollar. Is there any way we can negotiate down my debt? And what they will do is sometimes they will write off a portion of your debt, or they can give you a lower interest rate. You can ask for either one. And the reason that they're willing to do that is if you say you don't have the money and you just don't pay, well, you could go into bankruptcy and then they get nothing. So they would rather get 80 cents on the dollar or 70 cents on the dollar, reducing your overall debt, than getting nothing from you at all. So that's what negotiating debt means, and that's how you do it. Seeking Alpha is a new tool. I haven't heard of that one. So that's cool.
Hey, Christine, I have a question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Erin. Thanks so much for speaking, and Angie, always for Girl Geek X, such an amazing community. My question has to do with negotiating offers, particularly with fertility. So, for example, like Google, Meta, and Apple have all reached out to hire me since I shut down my company last year. I was working on a venture studio. And, I'm also looking at startups. Not every startup, even really promising ones, cover fertility in full. I'm wondering, do I forego like equity as opposed to salary so that I could still keep a higher salary? Most people tell me you should just ask for more money. And then instead, if they can't cover fertility benefits, not every company does, then, maybe have a salary increase. I'm actually thinking I'd rather take like a cut of equity, stock comp, or IRA, rather than keep salary. Most people say just keep salary, but I'm just curious in your experience what you've heard people kind of negotiate for in terms of like tech jobs that are engineers in particular, just because fertility is so expensive nowadays. Like I totaled how many rounds it would be, and I'm like, this is like a salary. And when maybe the last thing I'll say is some companies I've seen, like whether it's Nvidia or Spotify, they're like, oh, it's kind of unlimited or like not. And then I'll see some startups be like, we cover it. I'm like, you cover 5K. And I'm like, that's the cost of my supplements I've already spent, which is really like nothing. So I'm curious what advice you have, or just in general, how people negotiate for different types of benefits.
So I will tell you, there's a couple different things that are huge factors. Okay, first of all, how soon? If you are interested in getting fertility treatments right away, then that is different than, oh, I'm thinking about 5 years down the road because, I need to take a break from whatever. So that's a big factor. And then I would say another factor has to do with the healthcare benefits that are offered. So I definitely, when negotiating the offer, would specifically ask, okay, I have a need. Exactly what does this healthcare coverage that you offer give me in terms of fertility benefits? Because they should be able to track that down for you very easily and say, oh, we give you a cap of 5K, or if they say it's unlimited, which I've never heard anybody say, I would definitely get that in writing and say, okay, I estimate that the fertility treatments are going to cost X amount, so that they don't come back and say, well, we said it was unlimited and oh my God, we can't pay you $100,000. So yeah, be very explicit. If they say, oh, it's unlimited, we don't really have then you say, okay, well, I want you to understand this is the kind of cost I'm talking about. So do your homework and make sure that you know what fertility treatments are in your area and what types. So I had some fertility treatments done but I did not do artificial insemination or in vitro or any of those things. I did some very basic stuff, and even that was pretty expensive because it was out of pocket. So fortunately, I did my research and I knew kind of upfront what I was getting into. So I did that as a savings goal, and I just saved up money. It just wasn't covered back in the day. So I'm old. I don't know if that helps any. There's definitely some support groups out there that you might also try to hook into, because that is definitely a hot button topic, and depending on what state you're in, that can also have a big impact. So yeah, that's a tough one. And personally, I think I would just take more money just because they change healthcare every single year. Every single year, it seems like they change the policy or they change who holds the policy. And you can't guarantee that they can't guarantee you that it will be consistent over time. So, I mean, me personally, I think I would take more cash.